Hi, welcome again to The Drop, where we're dropping truth and bringing life. I'm John Arana, and today we have a very special guest. Why? Because she is my wife. And this is Karen Arana, and she's executive pastor of administration at the church. But more than that, she's here because we have a 43-year-old marriage, and we have learned a few things here and there, and we just want to pass those on to you. And you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi. It's so good to be here, and I'm excited about sharing some things that we've learned in those 43 years. And the subject that we have today is, I think, really exciting, and I hope that, just our life helps you guys out there.
I think you have a lot to add to this whole subject. And we're going to be talking about transparency. And I think transparency is a huge principle when it comes to relationship and marriage, because it's hard to really have a healthy marriage. Remember when people hide things and people are pretending and that kind of thing. So it's kind of hard to really have a healthy marriage under those conditions. So we think this principle is really, really important. Why, in your heart, why do you think this is important, and how's it been important to our relationship?
Well, I think that when you're open, the way we've learned to be, it just really makes the marriage so much richer. And there's this place that I can go with him that's safe, that's open. It just it connects us better because we're not hiding. We're we're not there yet, but we've really made a lot of progress in this area since we first were married.
Well, one of the good things about our marriage is that she's Italian, I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm telling you, we talk no matter what.
Oh yeah, we talk.
So we talk with low volume, or we talk with high volume, but we are gonna talk. I mean, there's no silence in our family, and I think in a way that we've had to learn to deal with that, but in a way that's been a good thing because we don't shut it down and pretend that everything's fine. We talk about it, which kind of brings me to a scripture in John chapter 3 that we've always read, but I think it's really good for this subject. It says, "We read that all those who do evil hate the light, and in fact refuse to come into the light, lest their deeds be exposed." So I think there's a principle there about walking in transparency. There's a principle there about walking and to the right person, being willing to expose your heart. And I think that is also in on top of that, it's a privilege that us believers have. Because we know that there's somebody there that's covering us.
That's good. And I love that scripture because also in your marriage, if you're hiding or, kind of referring to this as in the dark, because, when you're in the dark, you're hiding. But when you allow that light to come forth in your marriage, it's the place of healing. It's the place of being vulnerable. It's the place of really connecting and seeing truth in each other's lives. So it's a great place to be, but it's not a place that we're all comfortable with.
That's a good point.
And sometimes when we are growing up, we don't see that openness in our homes, so we kind of revert to that. So we have to learn as a Christian couple to really open up and let that light shine.
And I think that as Christians, as believers, we have the added value that we know that God loves us. We know that God is gracious. And so it kind of helps, to be transparent because you know that you have a safe place in God and that God can make up for your deficiencies and that God's working in you. Good. And I think it helps in the relationship. And I think one little thing that I wanted to say about walking in the light and is this, as you were talking, I just kind of thought, well, when we walk in the light, whenever a light is turned on, it shows you what's there. So like if you're walking in darkness, it's easy to trip all over the place
Oh, that's true.
and bump into
Yeah.
things. And I think it's the same thing in relationship.
Yes, it
If
is.
we're
That's
walking
good.
in darkness, hiding and things, it's easy to bump, it's easy to trip, it's easy to so walking in light
Yeah,
actually
that's good.
helps the relationship, avoid certain pitfalls.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Yeah, and I think walking in the light and being open and vulnerable in our marriage has just really brought us closer.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because we just celebrated our 43rd anniversary in
43rd,
January. And
43rd.
when we tell people that, they literally,
They go like,
they're like,
"What?"
to the same person, to the same guy, to the same woman. And, so we realize that, when we are transparent, there's a longevity in the relationship
Yeah.
and in the marriage.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to be able to say I've been married for 43 years to the same man.
That's right.
And there's some things that God has shown us that has attributed to the success of those 43
That's
years.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think that if we're honest, we have to say it hasn't been easy
No.
to learn
No.
to be
No,
transparent.
it has not.
Because we're human and we make mistakes, and it's hard sometimes to kind of humble yourself and say, yes, I am sorry, or yes, you're right about that
Or,
area
yes,
of my
yeah.
life. And it's hard sometimes when your opinion might be different than your spouse,
Yeah.
to say, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I just don't agree with that because I see it differently. So it's not so easy to
No,
do those
it's not,
things.
yeah.
But I think that the question is, how does transparency helps in a relationship?
Yes.
I think we have a few points here that we want to share with you.
Sure.
The first one is that how do we implement this? How do we grow in transparency? I think the first one that we have here is that starts with a mutual understanding.
Very important.
So what do you think about that?
Yes. Well, I just know that if one person is not cooperating, then
Right.
we're not going to make progress.
Not gonna do it. Yeah.
And so I love that word agreement. It's come to an agreement with
Yeah.
your spouse.
Yeah.
And to continue the principle, it's just saying that you want to make sure that you don't keep secrets. And it's so funny. I was sometimes afraid to tell John everything that I bought at the store in the beginning because I wasn't sure how he was going to handle it. Well, even that is kind of a small secret. It's kind of like, why am I not able to fully just say, hey, look what I
Yeah.
bought? So there was probably a little bit of insecurity on my part because when we were first married, we were still
Yeah.
getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And so it's real important that emotionally, relationship wise, financially, and
Yeah.
sexually, that you
Yeah.
are open. And that is the principle,
Sure.
to be transparent,
Yeah.
that we should never be holding anything from them.
I think that reminds me
You have
of
a funny
a
story?
situation where I had several
Oh.
the speeding tickets.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that.
I had several
Yeah.
speeding tickets, and what's insane is that on my way to pay one ticket, I got another ticket because I was in a hurry and they were going to close the municipal
Yeah,
office.
that's pretty funny.
And so, obviously, I came home and I was thinking, I'm not going to tell Karen. I'm not going to tell Karen about this
Yeah.
because she's going to be really upset about it. Because every ticket was like $200-$300, that we didn't have at that time.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyhow,
true.
so I was thinking, how can I hide this from her?
That's so funny.
How can I
Yeah,
hide this
yeah,
from her?
yeah.
And it's because, first of all, I knew that I was in the wrong.
Yeah.
And second of all, I thought, man, she's not going to understand that I was in a hurry trying to pay the other ticket,
Yeah.
trying to do right. I did wrong. And so when there's an atmosphere where, of course, if you do wrong, then
Yeah.
you deserve to
Sure.
deal with the consequences. But in an atmosphere where you're saying, where you provide that safety and you provide that
Sure.
understanding,
Yeah.
then it's easier for people to say, you know what, this what happened, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize, and I'm going to work
Mm-hmm.
on that. And I think we have that,
Yeah, we
we
do.
provide that
Yeah.
for each other. But deep inside, you're thinking like, how can I hide
I know.
this?
That's
I don't
so
want
funny.
this person to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point in it's how you approach me,
Yeah.
but then how am I gonna respond?
Yeah.
And sometimes we do freak out. I mean, I know even when we had teenagers, they would say something, we'd freak out, but we have to think about, how can we handle the situation
Yeah.
calmly,
Yeah.
think the best of your
The
spouse,
other person.
and
Yeah.
also try to work together on how you're going to
Yeah.
solve it.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I do specifically remember telling you that when I got a ticket, because
Yeah.
see, I have gotten tickets too. The
Very,
police,
very few little
very few.
tickets,
Thank you,
man.
very
Nothing
few.
in comparison to
Yeah,
me.
that's
But
true.
guess what? I haven't had a ticket for
No, you've
years
done
now.
so good.
I've
Yeah.
really made progress.
But I remember the policeman told me,
Yeah.
ma'am, if you
Ma'am.
just stay in the right lane and do not be in the fast lane,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
will never get a ticket. You might get a ticket for going too slow, but so I shared that with John, and then we kind of just laughed.
Yeah.
So, but I said, well, that's what the policeman told me.
Hey,
Yeah.
you got the scoop.
But again, if we create this atmosphere that we're going to, respond really bad and be demeaning,
Yeah, yeah.
and then blaming, and just start this
Sure.
this whole very negative
Yeah.
response,
Yeah.
it's not going to work, and
No.
you will never open up.
Never,
And vice
never.
versa, I will never
Yeah.
open up if
Yeah.
that's the kind of response. So I
Yeah.
know we've had to learn
Sure.
how to sit and
Yeah.
talk and
Yeah.
and share our feelings,
Yeah.
and that's been
And that's why I
huge.
tell couples, I tell, especially wives, I
Yeah.
tell wives, if your husband comes home
Mm-hmm.
and opens his heart, whether it
Mm-hmm.
is I bounced a check, or nobody writes checks anymore, but
Well,
anyhow,
I do.
I overdrafted my account, or
Yeah.
I spent something that I regret later,
Sure.
or I paid too much for this or
Mm-hmm.
that. I tell the ladies, man, if he becomes vulnerable to you,
Yes.
handle that with care.
Yes, that's so
Handle
true.
that wisely,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that he
Mm-hmm.
feels that he has a safe place. And vice versa, it's
Yes.
true. Also,
Yeah.
when the woman comes
Mm-hmm.
and says, honey, I got all this stuff on sale and I spent a bunch of money, but it was all on sale.
I do that a lot. Yeah, that's so
So
funny.
you have to
Yeah.
say, like, "Oh, okay, honey."
Yeah, yeah, but especially men, they will never open up
Yeah.
if there's no. Well, women too.
Yeah.
If there's not that safe place,
Yeah.
that place that you can just really
Yeah.
be so vulnerable and open and
Very
real
important.
without judgment. That's
Very
huge.
important.
And I've had to learn that because I grew up in a home that we just didn't talk.
Yeah.
So I came into this relationship, and here's this wonderful man who's Hispanic, part Hispanic, and he's very open and very candid, and his heart is out there, and I'm very closed.
Yeah.
And I remember, we would sit down, and he would just talk to me and say, well, how do you feel?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me what you're feeling right now. And
Yeah.
so that helped me,
Yeah.
begin to open up.
Right,
And,
right.
and you create this wonderful safe place
Great.
where you still do it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's wonderful.
So I think again the point was establishing an
Mm-hmm.
understanding
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere
Yes.
where we're going to. That doesn't mean we agree with everything, but it
Right.
does mean that we have an understanding heart. The
Yeah.
next one that we want to talk a little bit about is give your spouse or that person that you're with, give your spouse first priority. And I think this is really cool
Yeah, it's a
because
good one.
I think if your spouse or the person you're in relationship
Mm-hmm.
feels that they are the most important person
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
their life, that does something for
Yes,
you.
it does.
It
Yeah.
makes you realize I am valued by this person,
Yes.
and therefore I feel comfortable. I feel like this person really cares about me,
Yeah.
and it's easier to open your heart to a person like that,
Yes, it is.
especially if you're
Absolutely.
afraid, and you're thinking like, what is she going to think of me if I say this, or what is he going to do if I say this, So, but I think this is a good point. Give your spouse first priority.
Yeah, I really like that. That's really good. Yeah, and it's funny because one of the ways we do that in a practical manner is we just spend a couple of minutes, not every day, but a lot of
Almost
days,
every day, yeah.
almost every day, and we get our coffee, we sit down, and there's just this conversation, and it's different every day.
Yeah.
And we try not to do business. We try not to talk about problems.
Yeah.
We try to just talk about maybe our day, but maybe something that we're going through, and this is a
Yeah.
perfect time that we have interacted and supported
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And there's been times that we have not wanted to talk
Yeah.
because of something very pressured.
Sure.
But this is the time
Yeah.
that
It comes out.
it comes out.
It comes out.
And then we can just really love on each other. And
Yeah.
he's a great listener. I've learned to become a good listener.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it, but he really listens to me, and he listens to my feelings, my emotions.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And he's been able to show me how to do that.
Yeah. One of the things about this point that, we all have to be conscious of and we all have to work on is make sure your spouse is the first one to know.
Yeah.
Make sure your spouse is the first one to know.
That's good.
Sometimes you have not been the first one to know, and I regret that, because maybe I'm talking to somebody about something, I get excited, and I say something, I forgot to tell you, and then that person comes around and tells you, and you're going like,
Yeah.
why am I the last one to know?
Yeah, you've only done that a few times, but
Yeah.
I do appreciate when you talk to me because, again, I feel valued. I feel like, wow, I'm his queen. I'm his woman that he
Yeah.
comes to, and he
Yeah.
just tells me things, and I like it
Yeah.
a lot. And
Yeah.
and I think most women do that, and I think men like that too.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to hear something from someone else that you felt was a kind of an intimate thing, or
Yeah.
maybe something that was really important that you would have really liked to have
Yeah.
heard it first. I love
Yeah,
that.
or something that affects you.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
something that affects you.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
I wish I would have known this first.
Yeah, like, hey, someone comes up to me and says, I'll see you Sunday at the Super Bowl party that you're having. And I'll be like, oh, we're having a party? Oh, I'll see you too. And then
Well,
I'll
I
be
did
like,
tell you
no,
about
you
that.
did.
I did tell you about
but
that.
It's just an example. Yeah, but if he ever does that, I
Oh,
tell him,
no,
well,
no.
that's on you because
Yeah.
then you're going to be in charge because you didn't give me enough. Here comes the Italian. You didn't give me enough time.
Yeah, no,
But we laugh
man.
about it.
I've
We
been there,
laugh.
done that,
Yeah,
and
we've learned. We both have learned.
I've learned.
Yeah, we both have learned.
But so that's important. Make sure that your spouse is the first one to know.
Yeah.
That creates also an atmosphere
It does.
of transparency. And the third one we have here is have obvious and open accounts. And I really, really, really like that because nowadays there's so much technology. Phones, iPad,
Yeah.
computers, even TVs, and even Wi-Fi's,
Sure.
and everybody has a password, and
Yes.
everybody has concern about their privacy, and I think that, especially when it comes to married couples,
Yeah.
I think you should have no
I agree.
privacy.
Yeah.
I think your spouse should have your phone's password, your
Sure.
iPad's password,
Sure.
your computer password,
It's a lot of
your
passwords.
bank password.
Yeah.
I think that there should be a complete open transparency,
Openness, yes.
and all the information needs to be made available and
Yes.
exposed
I like that.
because I think that creates a safety environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And of course, it creates accountability,
Sure.
but it also creates transparency.
absolutely.
And I think
Yeah.
that is something that I've seen that
Yeah.
some couples have a challenge with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I've
know,
seen
and
that
if you don't want your spouse to have your phone
Yeah.
password,
Yeah.
something's not right here.
Something's not right. I agree.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I've seen it too many times.
Yeah.
And no matter what excuse you make, something's not right there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just assures your spouse that you don't have anything to hide. And it's so funny because I've never had to look at any of his stuff, but just knowing that I have the ability to do so
Yeah.
creates this wonderful trust.
Yeah.
It builds trust. And I just wanted to say this: we must both be trusting and trustworthy.
That's good. That's good.
Trusting and trustworthy.
Trustworthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one question that people ask me a lot is, well, how do I know she's trustworthy? How do I know he's trustworthy? And I learned this from Dr. Cole.
Yeah.
Dr. Cole said, you only trust people to the degree that they deal in truth.
That's good. Yes.
So you
that's
just
good.
don't trust anybody just because they're around,
Yeah.
you know, and even being married, you have to earn that trust.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to be worthy of that trust.
good.
And how is that? By being truthful,
Absolutely.
by being
Yes,
honest,
that's good.
by being transparent, you
yes,
know, letting people know what's in your heart and what's on the table. So if you're walking around hiding and you know, pretending and hiding your phone or your emails,
No,
you
that's
know,
not a good sign.
no.
Yeah, that's not.
That's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah, but you know, it's so funny because we do talk to a lot of couples and
Yeah.
try to help them from our life. And you know, people do make mistakes.
Sure,
They do, and
sure.
they come from, you know, very hard backgrounds and maybe never saw any of these principles
yeah.
functioning in their home.
Yeah.
So one of the things too that goes along with this is forgiveness and prayer. Because if we
That's
make
good,
a
that's
mistake,
good,
and
that's
you know,
good.
we're not perfect,
Yeah.
but if we make a mistake, we have to come and be open with that
That's good,
mistake.
that's good.
Because that also builds trust.
That builds trust, exactly.
Saying like, yeah, you know, I really didn't tell you all of the clothes that I packed. I only told you
the
half
whole
of it.
thing.
Right. But I'm really sorry because I feel like that's not right for me to do. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, and eventually, you know, they're going to find out because they're going to see
That's right.
the money in the bank. You know, and it's just an example I'm giving. But I think that we also need
Yeah.
to pray for each other and you know, create again that atmosphere
Yeah.
that someone can be
Sure.
open and transparent and
That's right.
trust.
Yeah.
You can trust them. Yeah.
I think that builds that trust
Yeah,
that you're
it
talking
does,
about.
it does,
And
yeah.
it's telling the other person, I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust you,
Yes.
and you should trust me.
Yes.
And I think you build trust by
Yes.
being transparent and,
Yes,
you know, putting the cards on the table, and you do it in a respectful way. You do it in a loving way, and that helps to build trust,
Yeah.
and that helps to maintain that transparency that is needed to be able to make the relationship
That's really
healthy.
good. Yeah. Very
So
good.
let's kind of go into the other one. This talk about everything as often as possible.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. Talk about everything. I love to talk, by the way.
I have something kind of interesting to say about that, because I think that that is a noble thing, but I think that is also a very dangerous thing. Talk about everything often. And I think that we have to use wisdom
Oh, that's good.
in terms of how we do that.
Yes.
Because I can't just say whatever I think, not considering the fact that maybe something that I would like to say
Yes.
is going to really injure you. It's
That's
going to
good.
really hurt you. And I think that I have to also evaluate the time and the place for that. You know, not that I want to withhold it from you, but are you ready to hear what I have to say?
Such a great point. Yes.
And I think we have to be careful about that one.
Yeah,
I think it's
we do.
important, but I think we have
Yes.
to be wise.
Yes, I think it's really good. Yeah, because we know each other well.
Yeah.
So I know your tender areas versus you might know my tender areas
Yeah.
too. Or the areas that I'm still working on that I haven't arrived yet,
Yeah.
you know, with God.
Yeah.
And so if we really truly love, then we're going to really care about what we say.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if we're having thoughts of something or we're seeing something in the marriage, and like, I'll just give an example. Say somebody's gaining weight. That's happened to both of us.
Yeah.
You know, we try to encourage each other
Yeah.
instead of saying, look at you. Oh, I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be devastating.
Yeah.
You know?
Very
And
painful.
so that would just be one
Sure, a
example.
good example.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do think that it's important to communicate and talk about finances, your children,
Yeah.
your parents.
Sure.
And I'm going to add sex because it's on here. And this is a
Hallelujah.
good one
Yeah.
because John was just very open about that, and I just was a little more closed in the
Yeah.
beginning of our marriage. Again, I never saw my parents like hugging or kissing, and
Yeah.
they never talked about it. And so, maybe it was
Yeah.
kind of like, I was like, wow, maybe you just don't talk about
You
that.
don't talk about
But
it.
you've
Yeah.
really helped
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
feel secure about it
Yeah.
and be open. And sometimes we laugh and
Yeah.
we say fun things to
Sure.
each other. But
Sure.
you've helped me.
Yes.
But you were very careful in the beginning
Yeah.
because you saw that maybe I wasn't so open
Yeah.
in that area.
Sure.
But
Sure. Yeah.
it's been good
It's
because
a
we've
good.
learned.
It's
Yeah.
a good. I think it's a good example
Yeah.
because I think that is a sensitive area in a lot of people's
Oh, it
life,
is. Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
seem to not always know how to talk about it,
Yeah.
and I think that can create more problems than not. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why I always say you got to get wisdom. You got to get wisdom. You
is
got to know how to
huge.
approach your spouse, and you
Yes.
got to,
Yes.
if you want them to receive it, you got to use wisdom and how do you approach
Mm-hmm.
it. And so for that, we have to evaluate time, place, and
Absolutely.
how
That's really
what
good.
our spirit condition is,
Yeah.
and all that. So let's talk about the last one.
Okay.
It's called "Let Your Guard Down."
This is good.
Now, what do we mean by that? Let your guard down.
Well, we have guards.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
those
yeah.
guards can be for various reasons, but
Yeah.
to me, most of them are usually because we have been hurt in an area
There you go.
and we
Good.
have a wall or a
Good.
guard,
Good.
a defense,
Yeah.
maybe just even by another person, by words,
Yeah.
or somebody very close to us.
Yeah.
So we are going to be guarded
Yeah.
if we don't feel safe.
There you go. That's it.
But what do you think some of the guards are?
No,
too?
I totally love what you're saying, and I think it's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, people feel guarded because what you said, they don't feel safe, and I think that, yes, let your guard down, and it goes with everything that we've already
Yes,
said.
yes,
Create an atmosphere where we can let our guard down. Create an atmosphere where you don't have to be worried that
Yeah.
you're going to be judged or
that's
condemned
huge.
or point your fingers at,
Sure.
So we create that atmosphere,
Yeah, I like
and I
that.
think it's easy then to let your guard down.
It is. I just want to read a thought that I had. It says, letting your guard down is saying you are unafraid to feel your emotions
That's good.
and be who you are.
That's good.
And,
That's good.
again, you helped me a lot with
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
I'm a very emotional person, but it was hard for me to describe my emotions.
Yeah.
And so you worked with me with that,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
But now I can say, well, this is who I am, and vice versa.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the marriage, you were kind of like, I'm not sure I'm gonna expose it all.
Yeah.
And it does take time. But
Yeah.
then when you feel confident and you feel safe, you're like,
Yeah.
I feel okay to say this is who I am.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and we learn from that, and
Yeah.
we grow and we get deeper.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. So today, basically, what we're sharing with you is a couple of ways in which you can make your relationship more transparent. So we said start with understanding. Make sure your spouse is the first one to know. So consider them first. Have an obvious open account. Passwords and stuff like that. Creates a safe environment and transparency and accountability. Talk about everything, find wisdom, time and
Yes.
place, and then let your guard down. Be able to be vulnerable,
That's
as
good.
we create that atmosphere of safety. So that's for today. So next episode we'll be here again, and we're going to talk about 5 ways that transparency makes your marriage better, makes it healthier, and it grows. Now I'm telling you, man, those are some good times. Those are some good feelings when these things begin to come together.
Yes, they do.
So we just want to thank you for being with us today at the drop, which we're dropping truth and bringing life. And thank you, honey, for being here with us and sharing your heart. You have done a great job. And so we want to say goodbye. God bless you. And we'll see you next time at the drop.